Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the latest episode of SchmoeTalks. That is right, we are back once again for another week to talk about the Schmoedown and finally, specifically, the community of the Schmoedown. My name is Aaron Knoll. I am the host of the show. Thank you guys so much for tuning in once again. For those of you who are returning viewers, I hope you guys enjoyed the little extra surprise last week. Special shout out to Chance Ellison for joining us on an episode focused very heavily on corruption and the beginning of corruption, and even getting into a little bit of the behind the scenes and talking about how some of that came to be. It was real great of him. Chance is a guy I've known for a while, and I got a lot of love for him, so I appreciate him coming on, and I hope you guys enjoyed having him here. But obviously, we finished up season 5. We've been doing our flashback series for a bulk of the show, and we were prepared to move into season 6, but I thought, why not take a pause? That gives us an opportunity to kind of do an episode or two maybe on some different topics. And I thought, when I launched this show, and it's one of the first things I said in the first episode, I said, I want this eventually, once we get settled in, we get, some people watching, we get the interest. I want this to be both an interview show for the Schmoedown competitors, but the community as well. And I've, had the great pleasure through this flashback series of being able to foster in multiple different panelists per episode, and even in some cases getting people their first airtime talking about the Schmoedown on YouTube or on any type of platform, which has been really, really fun for me to get to give that to people. But I decided, 16 episodes in is probably about the right time to actually finally do a competitor with a fan, and who better to do an interview with than someone who has been a fan of the Schmoedown for a decent long time. He is someone that I am happy to call a friend. He is one Kevin Poss, better known to those who check out our channels as the commissioner of our TMGeek League over on TMG Trivia. Kevin, how's it going, man?
It's going well, Aaron. Thanks for having me on, and looking forward to this episode.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, before we go ahead and get into it, those of you who have been watching know that over the last few weeks, I have interjected before the episode these little recorded bits talking about a competition that we had amongst some of our earlier booked guests based on predicting the Schmoedown. Now, I wasn't able to get one put in time for this newest set of matches that are going up now, but what we are doing here is an open all-call event. We have not only a Star Wars tournament coming up, we have a teams tournament coming up. And those of you who put in a bracket, you can submit it to me through private message. You can drop it periodically. I've been putting posts up on the Facebook page. You can drop it on any of those. Anyone who submits a bracket based on how correct your predictions are, and you will still receive some partial credit if you pick a person to win, but they beat a different person in the second or third rounds. All that will be explained as we get a little closer to it. But the person who predicts the most correct instances out of each of those brackets will receive a prize. For those who don't know, I decided to give prizes to the top 3 finishers of our last tournament. So Mr. Matt Beer is currently cooking up some harebrained idea to bring on to SchmoeTalks that I will be subjected to. And both Mr. JD Domash and Andy Sweet, who have been previous guests on the show, will have chosen to use their prize to come on our other weekly podcast, After Dark. So they will be appearing very, very soon on that as a extra reward for their participation. Mr. Kevin, you participated in that. You did not win a prize, but
I did not.
Some would say the prize is getting to participate in this community anyways, along with the hair loss that probably comes with it.
You're not wrong there. I started off really close to the bottom, if not right at the bottom, and I was like, man, I'm out of this for sure. But I kind of clawed my way back up into it, and I think I finished maybe like tied for 5th or something like that. So it's a fun thing to do, and I will definitely be participating this time as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And we already got a couple brackets sent in, so be sure to get them in, guys. This one isn't limited like the last one was. This one isn't private invitation. This is open to everyone. So you seeing this, even if you've never been on the show, even if you don't remember my name from when I said it 5 minutes ago, submit a bracket through my DM. The name, by the way, if you forgot, is Aaron Knoll. Submit a bracket through DM, submit a bracket through one of our TMG pages when I put the posts up, and get yourself an entry, because you never might know what'll come of it. And if nothing comes of it, what'd you lose? 30 seconds filling out a bracket. Go ahead, put one in. But with that being said, let's go ahead and move into the actual interview. And as I always do when I have an interview, I'm going to begin with something that I like to call the 5 questions of SchmoeTalks. These are 5 questions that I've come up that I feel create a pretty general basis for both fans and competitors. Some are diverting questions, and the last time I actually displayed all the fan questions was in the very first episode. So this will be a very fun time to kind of get into this. And I feel like for a show that relates to the Schmoedown, the first question I have to ask is, when did you first discover the movie trivia Schmoedown? At what point was your entry point?
I actually discovered it during the anarchy phase. I guess the YouTube algorithm kind of diverted me to the Schmoedown, but once I discovered it, I was hooked. I went back and rewatched all the prior seasons. I loved the wrestling aspect because I'm a big fan of the old like 80s, 90s wrestling stuff. That was something that my dad and I had in common, and he passed away when I was 15, and so that's something that that I just it kind of rekindled that. Those promos that they cut and whatnot, it rekindled that kind of fire in me. But just answering the movie trivia questions right was something that I was like, man, I might be able to do that one day. Like that's kind of cool. So yeah, it was right during that era though. Right when I was helping take care of my grandparents, and it was kind of a rough time, so it definitely helped me through some rough times for sure. But it's been a cool thing ever since, and I'm very glad that I found it.
Yeah, and I don't have to go into it because I've talked about it enough on any show, but I've mentioned that I am not a wrestling fan, so for me, the storytelling aspect early on was something that I had to be sold on because, and this is kind of the harsh truth, the Schmoedown was comprised of Collider employees and their buddies. Not like everyone coming in was a professional actor. And so especially the Anarchy storyline where you came in as a non-wrestling fan, for me, that was something where I was like, okay, so they can do this if they put the right people at the forefront. Ken's entertaining enough as is. Mike is, he sells it very well as he is an actor. And even to his credit, Chance kind of just getting chucked in as the rookie into the middle of this held his own as well as they needed him to for that moment. And so it sold me. So I imagine as someone who was a wrestling fan coming in as something like that was happening, certainly added an extra level of, oh, okay, so this is something I can really get into rather than, and we even talked about in our flashback episodes, season 5 is a season looking back on it. It has some real dead periods early on, and then it picks up around Anarchy. So compared to coming in earlier when it was just a dead zone of just, here's a match. I think it does play a part probably that you came in at that moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, those, I think even with bringing Chance in and all that, it might be where I even started hearing the term fan league and started wondering, what does that mean? What is fan league? And how do I get involved in that? And that's how I started, trying to search on Facebook and become a part of said fan leagues and stuff like that. So, yeah, definitely. But Mike was killer on those promos, and I think Christian and all of them did a great job during that season to just get a lot more viewers for sure.
Oh yeah, for sure. It was a good growth point for them, absolutely. And yeah, as we talked about last week, that really was the exposure of the fan league, because I believe it was, if not earlier that year, then it was the year prior. The fan league's first exposure happened because Christian found out about it when it was just the one fan movie trivia Schmoedown league, and he, as like a marketing gimmick, asked them to give Brett a match, and so they did, and Brett played. But that was kind of where it began and ended. The closest exposure they got to that is someone who I'm good friends with, Evan DeGraff, a former admin for Movie Battleground when we launched it. before even movie Battleground, he was one of the team members of the original fan league, and through the power of Twitter, he did a mighty good job pissing off John Roca, and so that got some airplay on the shows. That did its job, but yeah, Chance was the first fan league player to cross over, and I think his impression early on of playing really well in the teams matches and then holding up to the Titan rookie that was Ethan in that match and then tournament certainly gave the fan leagues a good name early on. That was further propelled by Paul and Kevin being the next two people to come in. So with that, we'll move on to the second one, and I'm curious to see where this goes because you talked about a couple of them already, which is the Schmoedown has three major components: film knowledge, wrestling storytelling, and now a sports league setup. When did you first discover your love for any of these in your life? Now, if I'm assuming by the fact that you talked about trivia, wrestling, and you're wearing a Braves shirt, you got some love for all three of these. So whatever stands out to you most, if you want to talk about all three briefly, your ball's in your court.
Yeah, the sports league setup and the wrestling storytelling both really jumped out at me first, I guess. In life, because I grew up playing sports. Like I said, my dad passed away at a young age for me. He was 42. I was only 15.
That's actually fun factor, but that's actually my mom was in the exact same position. She was 15 when her dad passed away, and I think he may have been 43, but yeah, very similar situation.
Yeah, and football, he was my football coach. He was always, part of, if I played basketball, baseball, he was there. So we watched wrestling together. Monday night, we would flip Raw and Nitro. I would get him to do the voices like Randy Savage and Hogan and Dusty Rhodes, and it was just that was just our thing, sports and wrestling. It was just our thing. So first, those had to be ingrained into my life. But so I think when I stumbled upon Schmoedown, I think those appealed to me more. But as far as the film knowledge, that I've always loved movies. I just never have really watched them for the purpose of, hey, now I know who that director is for that movie or when that movie came out or any of that kind of stuff. That's right. That's all relatively new. I didn't really know there was a calling for that or a place for that. But I love it. I love the setup, and I love the combination of all three. And I think it's a really cool aspect. I know they're kind of moving away from the wrestling storytelling aspect, but they're still trying to keep some of the storytelling there. Obviously, yeah. I love the cut scenes they're doing now that they're doing the digital era. But yeah, I think it requires all three to find that love of it, especially during that time when I found it. I think it was just a happy accident, but definitely, like I said, a happy one nonetheless.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I certainly think, and Christian's never been shy about how, when it's in its good moments, how big a wrestling fan he is. I think it's almost I don't know if I want to say happy accident, because I don't know if it's happy for him, but it's kind of a funny coincidence that the season in which I think even more than probably season 5, which was the last time this happened, the amount of studying and level of knowledge amongst the competitors took a leap up, was the year that COVID happened and they were forced into those, computer matches. And, as the fan leagues, I think over time have been a great portrayal of, it's very difficult to pull that off. A lot of the earlier fan leagues encouraged factions and pulling promos against each other. And a lot of it didn't come off the best because when it's people you don't know trying to convey something through text or through a computer screen and you're not getting to act off of somebody, it's all very difficult to try and do. I remember the few matches I played in the very first fan league. I basically straight up rejected the idea of doing a character. I think the closest I got was, and he's great guy. I still like have him on social media. He's a great dude. Drake Fremsdorf is the name of the guy that I played. And he decided to go with the nickname The Goat because nobody took it. And so the closest to character I got was being a prick the whole time because I'd just be like, oh, I get to pick who goes first. You're up, Goat. I'm beating you, Goat. Your turn, Goat. Like, that's the best I got because I'm just like, there's not much I can really do right now outside of just kind of being a dick. Which I think I do a decent job of now too. But it's a hard thing to portray through a screen. And so I think it's taken them a bit of time to get there. And I think especially living in LA, because it was such a shut down area, it like now the fact that they can even if you're filming two people having a phone call, that's at least you have the ability to get two people in a space to film something like that with at least a cameraman. And I know Christian shouted out a former Collider member of his, Dennis Zhang, has directed some scenes for them. And so like that's the ability to get him and a cameraman and like Andrew Guy in an area to film that they didn't have last year because LA was that closed down. I'll be very curious when we go back to studio, honestly, to kind of see how it ends up working out, because I think once they're back in studio, they're going to want to full on go for this. And I'll be very curious to see how it meshes now with because they're not really factions anymore. They are kind of straight up like sports teams, It's just, your batters don't get 3 strikes and you're out. Your batters get a whole match to try and hit that hit, So it'll be very interesting, but I think they'll relish in the challenge almost because I think they're so dedicated to making all of it work that they'll have a go at it, and if it doesn't work, they'll try something else.
For sure, yeah. I mean, I think they showed last year how they can adapt on the fly, and with the calling it the new era, I think it was perfect. I mean, they did a great job, and so I think they can continue doing that. So we'll see where it goes.
Absolutely. So now we're going to move on to the third question of the 5, and I'm going to make you play a bit of a Sophie's choice here. Which element of the Schmoedown is your favorite if you had to pick one? Film knowledge, the wrestling storytelling, or the sports league setup?
Oh, man. Well, now that we've talked about all this, I think now after these few years of taking it all in and actually running a league for a little while and participating in the fan leagues, I think my favorite is actually the film knowledge. I kind of lost my desire for the wrestling storytelling aspect, kind of like what you said, Aaron. It's very difficult, especially over the internet, trying to convey the stories and the promos, and people are trying to be serious and have these characters, and it's just like you can't really do serious good character work. I mean, some people were very good at it. I had seen some good ones. I remember there were a few back in the MTFO days, and even some in Full Metal, but it's just kind of fallen by the wayside. The sports league setup is, I feel like, a newer thing. I'm still kind of getting used to that, but yeah, the film knowledge, man, I just, I like the Adam Collins style of just coming in and just knocking people out with the 92% accuracy, the 91% accuracy, the I know more than you know, and the studying and the, just breaking films down and purely what they are, and just being able to remember that stuff, basically, because I realize now how absolutely hard that is. And I guess that's what makes me appreciate that the most. So I guess I'm going to have to go with that one. Flip the switch on that one a little bit. But the film knowledge is something I can absolutely appreciate 100%.
Yeah, and I think that's absolutely a fair take, especially because like you talk about coming in and around season 5, around the time that the Anarchy stuff was happening, that's a really interesting time when you look back on it, because I believe, and I could be wrong, but I believe that was the first season where this pattern of someone coming in and tearing through and either getting almost there or winning became a pattern, because that year Mara did it in IG, and then Ethan did it in singles, and then the following year Paul did it in singles, and Kevin did it in IG, and then the following year, obviously, and Kevin obviously had one loss in the middle, but it was a very, very close match. It's not like anybody doubted him. But then the following year as well, we had, I'd say, another two in Adam Collins obviously tearing through. And then unfortunately, I think people may look back on it with a little less luster now that the title match happened and it really didn't go his way. But Ace's run was also equivalent to those people of one qualifying match. This guy's in it. Nobody thinks he can win. He's like easily like the underdog in every match by on fan polls, like hundreds of votes. Yeah. And he's just winning and winning and winning and winning solidly and convincingly, it's absolutely impressive. And so I think it is kind of funny how with the pushing of the wrestling and now the sports league set up, with the other elements continuing to push themselves in, I think it's funny that the film knowledge still continues to push itself. Like it's almost competing with it. Like, oh, we're adding another element. Well, now we just got to get smarter with it and keep pushing and make sure we know this is what it is. It's a lot of fun. So the fourth question I have for you is, if you had your pick, what's your perfect league to compete in? Who is your perfect opponent, teammate, and manager?
Wow. So
we'll break this down. So what league? We got 4. What league is the one for you, do you think?
I like the style of Full Metal's league. You're talking about divisions.
Yes, the Schmoedown.
The divisions. So Inner Geekdom is my.
But shout out to Full Metal. That was definitely a shout out, right?
Sorry, I was trying to think of like how they ask questions. Yeah, sorry. I do. I mean, it's no secret there. That's where I get my plot summary question from. Anyway, so going back to Schmoedown, divisions. I do like playing in teams. Obviously, Geek is a big thing of mine. But I really like Star Wars. Star Wars has always been a love of mine, and anytime I have the chance to compete in a Star Wars match, I take that chance. I finished 3rd in the TMG Star Wars tournament that we did, the franchise wars tournament that Ryan helped put on. The MTFO tournament that was put on, I didn't do as well in, but I mean, they're just some, it's one of those things where same thing, film knowledge, like you're talking about getting into like the most broken down, every little thing has, like I have books on just every little piece of Star Wars information, how many stormtroopers can fit on a destroyer and this, that, and the other. It's crazy. So you just being able to memorize all that stuff is really awesome, and I like that. So that would probably be my pick for a division. Yeah.
All right. So you're entering the Schmoedown. You're playing in a Star Wars league, and the question has to be, what is your perfect first opponent? Who is someone that you'd want to play, that you think you could play, and who are you bringing in as your manager?
I'd want to play somebody fun that could keep me, because definitely my anxiety would get the best of me, I know for sure. So somebody fun and upbeat, like an Adam Witt or even an Ace Cabrera, definitely for sure. And as an opponent would be amazing. Even a Joseph Scrimshaw, just somebody super knowledgeable that usually when I try to play against myself, but I'd love to have somebody across the table from me that is just, witty, funny, and keeps me from just getting too much in my head, I guess.
Good. Yeah. It's a
And
great tactic.
yeah, absolutely. And what was the second part of that? I'm sorry.
If you're picking a manager, who's the manager you're bringing in with you?
Oh, I got to go with Kaiser. I mean, I do like some of the other styles. I like Winston's style. He always seems to go to bat for his people. I like Roxy's style of going. She always is able to seem to go in. I always kind of put myself in those, like, okay, if I was actually in the Schmoedown, like who would I want? Who could pull me out of if I got in my own head and we're in the second round or going into round 3, like who could pull me out of that? Roxy maybe could do that, but I just feel like Kaiser could really give me the pep talk that I need. I have talked to him one-on-one before. He's just that kind of guy that I feel like could do that for me.
Absolutely. And with this last one, we can answer the second part of it first, because the first part of the question really leads us into the next bit of our discussion. But the question is, what has your experience in the fan leagues been like, if any? And does that encourage you to want to audition to move up with the league seemingly expanding each year? So we'll go to that second part first. With your knowledge growing ever more, you said you love Star Wars, you said you'd like play teams. Obviously, as somebody who is actively running and helping write inner geekdom questions for TMGeek, your knowledge there is expanding. Do you ever have the interest in, especially now that they're seemingly every year going to be doing open audition tapes to an extent, is that something you'd ever be encouraged to want to try?
I'd probably just leave it up to the pros. I mean, I like watching the matches. I like participating, alongside, playing along, but I think I've found kind of a niche spot, kind of running things here, in the fan leagues and getting people matches here. So, even if I was, in that mindset of wanting to move up or anything, or having the ability, I guess, I think I've found kind of my niche spot. That's not to say it couldn't change or anything in the future, but yeah, I'm pretty happy where I'm at right now.
All right, so then let's get into it, because as I aforementioned, and if you guys have checked out any of our TMG trivia videos, you guys know well and good that Kevin Poss is the head of our TMGeek Trivia League, a league that is assisted by both myself at times, Mr. Ryan Payne, more recently heading into the new season, Andrea Malabag has joined us as well, helping out. It's a good team that we have, and obviously that is really the bulk of your experience in the fan leagues, is kind of taking on that responsibility. And so in relation to that, I have to kind of, and obviously, there's issues related to this in the past that we can stay away from. TMG has a very funny track record of starting shows off of the unfortunateness of other situations. But what took you to want to begin spearheading TMG or TMGeek? Like, what was it when we were in that position of, okay, we're beginning a trivia league under the brand, we need people to take the role? What was it that made you go, this is what I want to do?
Yeah, absolutely. I think anybody that knows me in the fan leagues pretty much knows my history, and there's just an aspect of making sure that it does, things like that don't continue to happen. I want what's absolutely best for the fan leagues. So this was the right place for me to come, and I wanted to take a league that was faltering, turn it around and clean it up, and make it the best it could be. So I took an inner geekdom league that basically didn't have any players. It was just kind of pulling people from the woodworks, asking them, do you want to play in a match, and then throwing a match together. And I've made it into something that now we have 34 competitors, 14 new rookies coming in this year. We just put on a 22-person championship tournament, crowned our first champion. And I think it's, like you said, we have a great team behind us, and I think it's one of the more successful geek leagues in the fan leagues.
Yeah, as somebody who's been a part of it, and I'm not facetious about anything, a lot of the behind the scenes stuff has been handled by Kevin and Ryan, and at times we have a team of question writers that aid all areas of TMG, and they do a great job of helping out in a pinch hit situation when we need it. A lot of my contributions have been on camera. If you guys saw a lot of that tournament, despite my one, I took time to lose so that I could be with you for the rest of the tournament and not have to worry about that playing crap. But yeah, it's certainly a lot of fun. And one of the things that I like is, seeing people, because obviously, the fan leagues out there have, and this is not a denigration of any other fan league for anyone checking this out, because if I'm quite frank at this point, I'm not involved in really any of them. I have the few people that are associated with different leagues that I communicate with, and that's a lot of the time just because they're longstanding friends of mine. The people, and people may forget, when this channel used to basically only be Movie Battleground, we were associated with Full Metal. I got a lot of people over there that I hold in a very good regard, whether it be the old guard like Sandy and Jeremy, and even some of the new people, Malcolm over there. I got a lot of love for those guys. Just because I don't play doesn't mean there's an issue there. It's just kind of where I'm at this point. I don't really play anywhere else except here because I'm so busy doing a lot of other things. But every league kind of handles their situation differently. Full Metal is kind of the premier league. They at this point they produced right, because they were the only ones around, but they have that pedigree. They put Chance up there, they put Paul up there, they took Kevin after his audition, put him and then put Kevin back up there. Robert came from them, in terms of his trivia playing. There's a few others. Jen Kemp played there. She stepped up. They even put up other people. The aforementioned Jeremy Adams has helped out with the Schmoedown in other ways besides being a competitor. Sandy, he came from there. Exactly. I found that out the other day. Sandy the Sandman Robinson helping out with the FCL.
Congratulations there.
These guys are the kind of, in a sense, some of the OGs of the fan league. And they've made that step up now. And so Full Metal as a name has that pedigree, but they have the way that they run things where it's, set rosters, locked in rosters, auditions at the start of the year. It's if you're in, you're in. If you come in late, you got to wait till next year. And so that gives the other leagues like us a feed, and that's what we have, and we'll get to it in a little bit because as the title says, we're doing our roster announcement as a part of this video, for TMGeek. We have a number of rookies that are coming into this league who have, found us as a result of going into Full Metal and just by the unfortunate circumstance not being able to compete there, but then getting the opportunity to become in contact with people who are a part of it, who know other fan leagues. And so they spread out and start putting their plays in other places to attempt to get in at a later point, And I certainly don't think it's a bad system at all. Because it's given us a lot of good players, who don't necessarily get to compete in other places as often. Let's talk about our champ, Joe Fairley. Let's talk about the latest Schmoedown rookie, Amaru Moses, who ran through our tournament and fell victim only to Joe in what is one of the closest matches I've ever seen be played live.
That was awesome.
So it really is such an interesting situation with the other fan leagues. And so what I like here is because we're so new, it is almost to an extent an open door policy, especially now that we're beginning a new season and we're kind of getting into it. We can bring in 14 new players and find ways to get them at least a match early on, which we'll discuss in a little bit what you've come up with, to get them in the door and then get them from there, depending on the wins and the losses.
Exactly. And that was my goal from day one. I think, like you said, nothing against any other leagues or how they run their stuff. I understand that there are logistics, obviously, when you have, 400 or 500 followers and stuff, you have to put a limit on things, obviously, or you're never going to be able to get out. You're never going to be able to get out matches. But at the situation we're in, I just don't want to ever turn anybody away. I don't want to say no to anybody. I want to give people the option to play throughout the year if they want to play. So I want to have a competitive league. I want to have a champion. I always want to have, number one contenders matches, stuff like that. Everything that every other league has, tournaments, things like that. But at the same time, I want to bring these guys in that are, sometimes asking, maybe they just missed the cutoff, or maybe they just missed getting in on another league here or there. Go ahead and let them, bring them in, and let's see what kind of knowledge they have, because they could be the next Amaru Moses or Paulo Yama or Robert Parker. So let's, I think that's the way to do it. That's what I love is, and that's why I say I found that niche spot is just giving back to the community. Has made me happy. It's writing these matches and getting them out there for people, whether it be just being able to watch them or compete or whatever. So it absolutely fills my heart.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's get into it. So obviously, last year we got the league up and going around the middle of the year, and the decision was made pretty early on. Let's get everyone one match, and then our way of kind of running matches out and getting people playing was to do a tournament. And so we did kind of almost everybody got a match. Everybody had a 1-0 or an 0-1 record. And it worked out almost perfectly because we had put in a couple of three-ways where we were able to create a tournament in which the 10 players who had won got a first-round bye. So essentially, in order to really compete in the tournament, you had to have at least a win on your record. Yep. And so if you didn't get it the first time, you got that second chance. Kind of, talk about the tournament in general and, one or two of the matches that kind of stand out to you when you think back on it as like, because I think to an extent, the people that aren't in the fan leagues may look at the fan leagues a little like cockeyed. They're not exactly looking at it like, oh, really, what is this? What are some of the matches to you when you look at that tournament and you go, this is the match to show you that these people can play? Like, this isn't a fluke.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the Joe Farrelly versus Colton Roberts match was a really good one. That was Colton coming off. Yeah, Colton coming off of his round one victory against Meg Ryan to get into to play Joe, which is a tough feat in and of itself because Joe being the number one player in the tournament. Moving on, there was Andrea upsetting Devante, who she had played prior in her matchup to get, before the tournament started. So she was able to redeem herself and beat him. So that was pretty awesome. Andrea Malabag beating Devante King. Let's see, who else was there? The Richard Schwartz and Amaru Moses match was that was actually very close, went into sudden death overtime.
Yeah.
And then of course, like you said, the any of the matches once you get to the even the Elite Eight, I was going to say like the Final Four, but definitely the Final Four on Alan, who was Alan, Andrea, and
it was Alan and Amaru.
Alan, Amaru, David and
Joe.
And then of course Joe and Amaru moving on. And like you said, that was absolutely one of the best match I've been a part of. I was on the edge of my seat. I was my nerves were just on edge the whole time. That was one of the best 5-round match I've probably seen, aside from maybe a Schmoedown Star Wars match that happened recently. But yeah, definitely.
God help us if that ever happens.
Oh my Lord, I know. But even the bronze match, the third place match, the one for the number one contendership, David and Alan, yeah, that they're all great competitors, and they all come in with such tremendous knowledge. Like I have to, when I'm writing these questions, it's like every time I have to challenge myself to, I'm constantly watching these movies and I'm constantly going back to my notes to challenge myself to write the best questions possible. And that right there tells me, these guys are awesome. And I'm looking at, I'm keeping up with their percentages, the points that they're getting. And, David's hitting 93+% going in the tournament and scoring like over 22, 23 points per match. I mean, things like that are insane to me. So, those are some highlights, but yeah, if you get a chance, go back and watch some of those matches for sure, because that's just the start of it. And unfortunately, some of the later on ones aren't edited as well, but hopefully we can get back to that and make them look pretty, but they're still just as good a matches, I promise.
Yeah, and so let's go ahead. We can kind of start moving into discussing the new season. But before we get to the part that people have sat through possibly 40 minutes for, which is the match announcements, I want to talk about the potential, and obviously we can speak on hypothetical because this is actually something we're still finalizing. It's not anything that'll go into effect immediately. It'll be situations where things are phased in over time. But funny enough, even before the Schmoedown made their expansions, I remember having discussions with you about we should expand the categories, we should add some different things, we should vary ourselves a little more. Then the Schmoedown went and took that idea. I remember, without throwing anyone under the bus, I was privy to the information of finding out some of the basically most of the categories early. Right. And my consistent thought was just, oh fuck, that was one I thought of. Damn it, what do we? Which at least validates that they were decent ideas. But we've been having discussions behind the scenes, the four of us, of what are we doing with the categories going forward? Because we've had the category up until now, mixed bag, which is kind of just a hodgepodge of everything else thrown into it. Mm-hmm. And the seeming idea going forward, and when we implement all this, because it may not happen right away, but to those playing and to those watching, you guys will certainly know when it does happen.
Oh yeah.
We're kind of imploding that category and then adding in a couple extra films here and there and using it to spread out and create more categories. So I want to turn it to you as kind of the head of that league. What are some of the categories that to you interest you the most, or ones that you feel confident enough talking about as if, yes, those will exist as proper categories next season?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, as soon as this season and as soon as these upcoming matches that we're about to talk about, you'll start seeing some of these categories. We're going to start changing just some of the way the categories are combined and worded. All the movies will stay the same. It'll still be a core geek for the moment. We're going to keep everything the same. No additions or subtractions of movies at the moment. But we're going to add. We're going to have like instead of just the main 12 categories we have had, we're going to start throwing in like Batman movies, Spider-Man. Let's see. Help me out here. Comic book
X-Men.
movies. Yeah, there you go. X-Men.
And also using some of the general categories that we've had intermittently more. Whether it be talking about stuff that people hate. We have quotes, scores, and soundtracks, stuff like that. But also one that I pushed for, not just because I'm good at it, but I think it is a legitimate category. But like movie release dates will be something that can show up a little more regularly, because just for whatever reason, it's not something we've used. I think, am I the only person that's ever actually used it?
I think so.
It worked, so I'll keep it.
Ninja Turtles, even Indiana Jones, Back to the Future. Those are things that were kind of like they're locked into that mixed bag category, and I felt like they were just very restricted in and of itself being locked in there. So if we just release it and let it be called, in the category of Indiana Jones. And then we can, have an Indiana Jones question. That way, that may not be a round 2 category because there aren't quite enough movies there. But Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles could be a round 2 category because there are.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, you'll
Transformers with 7 films.
Yeah, you'll definitely see a bigger variety on the round 2 wheel. That way, I'd say you'll see you won't be able to tell whose strengths are what as easily, and then also you'll just have more variety going in. Variety is the spice of life, and then I just want there to be an easier transition moving into whether we add the movies that we're talking about this season or we just wait till next season or whatever. I at least want to get the categories, moving forward this year. So you'll start seeing those as soon as these next couple matches start popping up.
Yeah, absolutely. And, as Kevin said, to those competing and those interested in competing, I don't want to say expansion necessarily, because there may also be like a chop and change, but an adjustment in certain categories and additions of more what were not previously even thought of categories are certainly something that's on the table that we are actually.
And I hope I didn't just freeze. Oh, sorry about that. I don't know if it was me or you, but
it was me. Welcome to Dead Air, the podcast. No, go ahead.
Sorry about that. No, I didn't know if it was me or you. So, all right. You just got to sit there and watch me stare at a computer screen for a minute. But no, yeah, absolutely. It's just a matter of, we, like you said, moving into a new season straight after an old season. It was something that, we wanted to have the championship match coming off of last year and airing the matches from the tournament last year. We had some issues because obviously with the drafting of Amaru, we had to get those matches out. So we didn't really have a lot of time to just throw out a lot of new movies and say, this is your new movie list. Right. We'll be starting next week. So yeah, that's kind of the predicament we're in. But as far as that goes, guys, don't worry about it. We're going to stick to the core. I want to keep it as core geek as possible, because that's been my goal, is to keep a core geek league. I don't want it to turn into fandom or anything like that. So yeah, we're not going to add Disney or anything to this. It's going to be just straight core geek, but we're just going to change up some categories for now, and then moving forward, we'll definitely keep everybody in the loop on everything else.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's, obviously we're talking about this now as like a teaser, and I thought it'd be a kind of a fun teaser to talk about it, but it's obviously something that when it comes in, this will be after multiple discussions between, whether it be the four of us, a mix of some of us having those discussions. There's a master doc open that we can all actively go in and make edits on and changes to, and situations to look at. And it's something that we're all kind of looking at and making sure, we are embracing that idea of like core geek. We don't want to go too crazily far past that. But there's also the discussion of, are there things that could qualify, that do qualify as core geek in the nature of what they are that maybe hadn't been thought of? Sure. One of the examples I'll give, and I only say this because I know it's a joke that'll eventually be removed. One of the categories when we do it, not anytime soon, competitors we're about to mention, don't make worry, but one of the categories that will be coming eventually is a specified graphic novel, and I believe it's graphic novel and manga will be mixed into one category. And I was the person who did a lot of the research to kind of come up with movies examples that could fall into this category. And with categories like that the definition of what that could be is so broad that it really does bring to discussion what should qualify and what doesn't. I purposefully put movies in there that I know will never qualify. But I think it brings interesting discussion because it really opens our mind to, okay, this is how far it could go. Now we need to find the core of what happens, you know? So movies that are on that list now that might scare TMGeek players will never show up. I will never ask you a blue is the warmest color question, but it is based on a graphic novel. So I threw it in there as a joke of like, seriously, if we think about this, this is how badly it could go. Let's find this.
Yes.
And I think that's the fun of it, is kind of the critiquing of these wider categories and really finding the niche of this does fit core geek, but it's also maybe something that hasn't been explored as much. So let's go down that avenue and see how it goes. Yeah. But obviously, you know, we're talking about this in theory right now. There's 4 of us all working on this, making these decisions. And I think we really have a great team chemistry going, with the exception of me pushing for movie release dates. There's really no bias in any of this whatsoever, because, I mean, I'm suggesting things that I totally suck at. You know, we all saw how Lord of the Rings and Star Trek have done me in the past, so I'm okay totally throwing out things that, like, I might suck at, because I think it should be in fairness of the league. And I know Ryan and Kevin and Andrea agree with me on all of that. So I definitely look forward. We look forward to getting these matches started for the new season. And as we finalize these things down the road, whether it be a few months or whenever, and we get these changes enacted, you know, we will have more concrete information, and I look forward to delivering that to you guys. But with that being said, let's get to the reason that some of you guys may be here. If you're tuning in by clicking on this on the Schmoedown page, you're going, what's a TMGeek? But if you are here from our YouTube channel, you guys know what TMGeek is. And we have the first set of matches, and it's a pretty big set. You know, we got answers from everyone who wanted back in. I believe the only 2 active players who didn't get a match immediately are the champion, Joe Fairley, and the man who just played him in David Alonso. So other than that, everybody else, you know, if you wanted in, you got something. So let's get into it. And it is next Sunday. Is that correct?
That would be correct. And next Sunday, we will have 0-2 Malcolm Lay taking on 0-2 Hunter the Hitman Chambliss. So one of these 2 players will walk out of there with their first TMGeek win. So looking forward to that one for sure.
Absolutely. And I think this will be big for both of them, because they both separately run trivia-related leagues. Obviously, people know Malcolm with his contributions to Full Metal in the Full Metal Random, as well as the Full Metal Classic. And Hunter, I know, also runs his own fan league. So I know to them, it's probably a point of pride of, how can I be 0-2 when I do this?
For sure.
So I know they'll both be coming in wanting those. But so then following that match, we will have the first of a series that we are calling the Rookie Rumble. So we're going to talk about all 4 of these first. So what we decided to do, in a very similar situation to how do we rush matches in for the people who debuted last year, we did a tournament. Well, for this set of people, we are doing Rookie Rumbles, where the rookies will be put into multi-people matches. And obviously the winners who come out of those will be on a decent track to get their careers going, and the others will all solidly get their opportunities to play the players as well, because at that point we'll have other 0-1, 0-2, maybe 1-2 or 1-1 players that are decent matchups for them to take on. And so the first one of those going up will be Kirby French taking on a man everybody knows, Dan Skip Allen, taking on Sean Hunter, and taking on a man, Dub Dubs. Tell me about Dub Dubs, Kevin.
Oh, I do know Dubs. Took him on in a regular movie trivia match over in Jackball Trivia. It was not a pretty match, but I did come out on top just barely. But no, he's a swell guy. But no, I'm looking forward to see what he can do in the geek realm. He seems to know a good bit about his movie trivia. He's been on Picture in Picture, I think, once or twice. So yeah, just looking forward to having, mixing in some of these. I call them rookies, but Dan has been known around the fan leagues forever, and Dubs is he's been doing this for a while too. So they are rookies to TMGeek, but not rookies overall.
Absolutely. And Kirby French, another one. If you guys have watched the picture-in-picture streams that happen, he's appeared a couple of times since joining in on the page. So certainly he'll be happy to get his first real match in. And honestly, not that different in environment, taking on more than one person, so it'll be certain to see how that advantage helps. So the following one, so those are the first two matches that will go up. We can guarantee those. The rest of the schedule that we will reveal is being revealed kind of just in the order that Kevin read them to me, but we do not have any matches booked past that. That's something we're working on now. So the schedule will kind of be made more official as we go on. But let's go over the rest of these rookie rumbles. So the next one that I have here listed is between one half of a duo that call themselves the BS Bros, Bruce Boyd taking on Michael Kearney, taking on, I want to say, Jake Reese. So go ahead, Kevin. Tell me what you know about these three and why you're excited.
I know Bruce is all about some horror and other movie trivia. Let's see how he does in the geek realm. I know he just likes to play, so I know he'll be down for some trivia. Michael Kearney came into the picture-in-picture match that I just did, and I did focus on Inner Geekdom, and he actually won. That was his first, I think, any kind of match. He did have some technical issues, but that's okay. Hopefully, he'll get his router fixed or whatnot. But no, he did an excellent job. Put up some crazy number of points. I can't even remember how many now. But no, he beat a pretty solid panel of people to win that one. And Jake, I actually just took him on in a match, and he answered some MCU and several MCU questions that I didn't answer. So I know he at least knows that realm. But this should be a good match. I think they all pretty much know what they're doing. They know their way around trivia realm. I know a couple of them know their way around the geek realm. So. Well, this one is one to keep your eye on for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So the next one we have, the third match of four that we have here, is made up of a former SchmoeTalks guest, as I mentioned at the top of the show, Mr. JD Domash, taking on Alex Martinez. Those of you who saw the title match recently between David Garcia and defending champ Joe Fairley, Alex actually definitely managed David. He also sort of managed Joe, too. It was a little bit of a friendly battle there. But he is throwing down the manager hat and putting on the competitor hat. They'll also be taking on Mr. Dale Hoffman and Mr. Noah McCausland.
Yeah, Noah McCausland, a Joe Fairley. I mean, he could be his twin brother. I'm interested to see what he knows. He's one. This is a perfect example. Again, nothing against any other leagues, but I just happened to see him, approaching another league, trying to get into their geek league and, their geek division. And they told him, it's sorry, the signups were a while back and, try it next year. And so I reached out to him and, and here we go. He's getting a match in or a few matches in this year. So that's what we're here for. Dale Hoffman, he was also in that picture-in-picture geek match. He was actually our second place finisher. So another first-timer. He's going to be competing in a singles match that will release. I'm not sure when it'll release, but he will have his first match under his belt. So that could play into, some of this. Alex has been around the fan leagues for a long time. I don't know when his last actual geek match was, recorded match. But I've been told that he does a lot of dark matches with, I mean, anybody that trains David and Joe and all them, you're just going to absorb knowledge. So I would definitely be on the lookout for Alex to be a rookie sensation. And I don't know a lot about JD, but absolutely. This should be a hot match for sure.
Yeah, and I can't speak to his trivia ability, but I do know from having JD on a couple times on the show, definitely his gravitation points are to the Schmoedown are within IG and Star Wars. So it certainly stands to the interest is there. It'll just be interesting to see how he handles the debut trivia part of that. And then finally, the fourth match we have is between someone who, correct me if I am wrong, but I believe she is the only straight-up trivia rookie who actually passed Full Metal's auditions, if I'm correct about that.
I think that is correct.
We have Brittany Tapley taking on Abel Deleu. If I said that wrong, please correct me, sir. And Mr. Tyler Birch taking on each other. And again, if I am correct, I do believe I remember seeing that. I don't believe she's ever played Fan League Trivia, but she put her hat in that Full Metal auditioning and did make it in. So it's rather interesting, that she's come in and she's putting her hat into multiple leagues. And obviously, as we said, Full Metal can be looked at as a pinnacle, especially with the audition process. I mean, our champ, Joe Fairley, who is a dominating player, has only just made it in for the first time. So they certainly put their players through the ringer to make sure, if we're only going to have a squad of like 20 players or whatever their cap is, we're getting the best players for the best entertainment. And so for that staple, I think this will be a very interesting match. I don't know a lot about Abel or Tyler, but I certainly think if either one of them pulls out a win, it'll certainly be a good testament to what they could potentially do.
For sure. I've seen Tyler play. I haven't seen Abel play, but like you said, I think that's the getting into Full Metal speaks highly for Brittany.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll go ahead and move. We'll go ahead and move on into the returning players, in which we start off. And as I said, obviously the only two players right now on our active roster who don't have a match scheduled are the champ, who just defended against David Garcia, who is also not playing a match. But we do have some players with some solid winning records who are going to start playing each other to get to that chance to take on potentially David or even Joe, depending on how the title route gets set up. A couple of those matches include Dr. Spaceman, a man who I have praised for falling ass backwards into victories over and over again. He will be taking on Andrea Malabag, who comes in with that 2-2 record after 2 solid wins in the tournament. Another match alongside them is former SchmoeTalks guest, as well as a recurring guest on our other podcast, The Supernova Show, Robert Kastner, coming in with a positive record. He'll be taking on Mr. Richard Schwartz. Both of them, I believe, did they both lose to the guys who went on to the final? I don't remember.
Yes, Richard lost to Amaru, and Robert lost to David, I believe.
David, okay. So, yeah, so go ahead and talk to me about either of these two matches, man.
Well, those two matches, interestingly enough, so since Joe is the champion, he's going to get to sit back and with that 6-0 record for a little while. David is still our number one contender, sitting at 4-2. But these two matches are really going to be impactful for the going into the season and moving forward, because the winner of these two matches is going to play each other to see who plays David to face Joe in the next championship match. So that will be a big title storyline, I guess, as we move forward, because these are the next 4 in line, I guess you could say, as far as their records go and as far the way they performed in the tournament. These 4, Alan, Andrea, Robert, and Richard, all did very well, and I think that they are ready to take that next step. So, yep, really looking forward to these. I know Robert is really involved in some other leagues as well as Andrea getting into Full Metal this year. So I know Richard and Alan have their work cut out for them there, but it can be done. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely, it can be. So we'll go ahead and move on to some of the other ones quickly we have coming up on the schedule. We have 2 1-1 players that honestly, it's kind of funny. They both followed a very similar path. They entered in. One became the number 2 seed in the tournament based off his impressive first match. The other came in as a surprise replacement entrant in the tournament. They both bossed their first matches, and then both went on to, unfortunately, in kind of similar but different ways, lose that second match. We have Devontae King taking on Mr. Ryan Payne. What are your thoughts on this one heading into it?
Man, this could be a really good match. Devontae is now running things in the IG League over in Jack of All Trivia, so I know he's improving his IG knowledge. He just faltered against somebody that he had already beaten, Andrea, in the tournaments, or he could have actually gone further probably. Ryan is still averaging, I think, 22 points a match, even after his loss against Joe fairly. So, I mean, he just ran into a buzzsaw in the tournament, but he beat Mashed Potatoes Caleb Hansen, who hopefully will be joining us back this year. But yeah, this will be an excellent match, I think, that could lead up to somebody that could be competing for a championship. If not this year, then definitely in the near future.
Yeah, absolutely. Next one on the table to discuss, two people that I am very familiar with, my teammate in TMG teams, where we have had two very close but unfortunate losses. Mr. Alec Miller taking on the man who absolutely lucked out against me in our tournament match, Mr. Nico Rigoli. I have nothing to say but go, Alec, go. Kevin, what are your thoughts?
If there's one person that is on a geek tear right now, it is one Mr. Nico Suave Rigoli. That 1-2 record does not speak anything near to what he's doing right now over in ONTL or Full Metal. So look out for him for sure. Alec's going to have a lady luck and some studying on his side for sure, because I think that 1-2 record can be deceiving.
Absolutely. And then another 1-2 match going up against each other. We have our own Supernova Show host, Mr. Colton Roberts, who came up against the aforementioned buzzsaw Joe Fairley. He'll be taking on Mr. Antonio Chavez.
Antonio is another one who's run up against a couple of buzzsaws in David, and I believe he played I can't remember who he lost to now. Anyway, he's had a couple of I think it was maybe Amaru. Either way, he had a couple of tough losses, or he could easily be 3-0 or 2-1. So Antonio is one of those players, though, that knows his stuff. Colton also, I know, knows his geek stuff. So this will be a really awesome match, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we are in an unfortunate position where we have two players at that 0-3 record. So it only makes sense to put them up against each other. We have one Chris Diaz taking on a man who I hated for about an hour, but much love elsewhere, Papa West, going at it against each other.
Yeah, one of them's is gonna walk out with a win, like I said about the first match we talked about. So absolutely, we will we'll finally have get one of them a win. But yeah, this is another one where you look at the records and you're kind of surprised because they both know their stuff. It's just I think they've had some tough matches, and with the roster, you look at that roster that we've just run through, even without the rookies, that's a tough roster. So comparatively speaking, if you want to compare it to any other league's roster, I think I'd put that up against any other league any day as a squad. So I'm proud of it, and I'm happy to have every single person, veteran or rookie, to compete.
Absolutely. And with that, I'm pretty sure we've got all the matches you gave to me, so we can go ahead and move on as we start to work to wrap up the show. What are...
Do have one more match that will be Kevin Freakazoid Moreno, who is 1-1 against yourself, Aaron Knoll, 1-2.
Oh, hold on. No,
Yeah.
no, no. Just because you have the same login as me doesn't mean you get to do this on my show.
Yeah.
What is this? I just played. Didn't I play to not play again? Oh, fuck. That's not how it works.
Yeah, that was only if you lost. So no, but this will actually be a really good matchup. Kevin is he's an awesome guy. He knows his geek stuff too. And we all know that you put a hurting on Papa West. So I'm actually looking forward to this one for sure.
I mean, I guess if I had to say something, Kevin, I don't know you all that well. I'm sure you're a nice guy. But unfortunately, I no longer have a clause where if I lose, I don't get to play again. So that means I guess I sort of have no excuse not to try. So may the best man win, and I hope you enjoy my record when you have it, because mine will be slightly better at that point.
There you go.
All right, so let's go ahead and move on into kind of closing the show up, wrapping it up. Obviously, is there anything else that you kind of, we have all these matches that are coming. We can talk afterwards about mine, but we have all these matches that are coming. What are you looking forward to most in terms of the growth of this league? Obviously we grew this year. We went from 22 players to 34 players. That's not counting some of our players, who participated last year or kind of have asked to kind of sit on the back burner for now. But that doesn't mean that they won't compete later in the year. They just didn't want to match in this initial wave. I kind of wish I was in their position right now. But anyways, I'll stop at some point. But what excites you heading into this season, heading into getting all these players, whether it be the returning players, the rookie players, the ones in the line for a potential title shot if a couple matches go their way. Just overall, what's the anticipation level moving forward with this, what I feel like has been an overall and a success in this first part of the year?
Yeah, absolutely. What excites me the most is going back and watching that title match between Joe and Amaru. Just seeing Joe's face when he won that championship. And I know some people might say, it's just a trivia match. It's just a trivia championship. It's not even a real championship. It doesn't matter. But, when you put a lot of work into it and like these guys do, and you really, you're fighting for that and you fight over a season, I want to see some of these, middle tier players or the 2-1s, the 2-2s, the 3-2s. I want to see them fight and get up to that level. And I want to see somebody, even maybe a rookie, run up through and be competitive into tournament season and really put Joe or whomever is the champion in a situation where they're I just want to have an excellent 5-round match every time we put on a championship match. I want all our matches to be competitive and everybody to enjoy their time in TMGeek. It's that's what we made it for. It's supposed to be for fun, but also competitive at the same time.
Absolutely. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, that will be the interview. Kevin, thank you so much for coming on, being the first, real interview I've gotten to do with a fan. I've loved getting in and talking about your Schmoedown, your Schmoedown enjoyment, TMGeek, getting into the lineup, the upcoming, some of the potential category changes. All of it has been a lot of fun, and I'm certainly looking forward to helping, run and host. And I guess if my contract says I have to play, I'll show up for that too. But where can the people find you on social media? Where can they get in contact with you? If somebody is watching this who has never heard of us, who wants to play, well, even if it's not in this wave, we'll have another round of matches. Where can they find you to get in on the goodness?
Oh yeah, we'll be playing all year. We'll do like a regular season, and then we'll do a tournament season. I'm going to try to stagger it, and then we'll do like a championship deal towards the end. Maybe even throw in some matches then as well. So you can reach me though on Facebook, Kevin Poss, or you can find me. I'm all over the TMG Trivia Facebook page. Find me there, or TMG Entertainment. anywhere on there, or even on Twitter, Kevin J. Poss. I think that's it, though. Yeah.
Absolutely. And guys, you can find me here, obviously helping out with TMGeek and all the other TMG trivia places when they need a face that can talk on screen. But most of my dedication right now is to here. It is to SchmoeTalks. We go live, live for you guys at least, every Monday at 7 p.m. EST. Be sure to check us out. Next week, I can't really get too ahead of myself because if I'm quite honest, I'm not 100% sure of what's coming. But if my plans work out, it'll be kind of cool. And if it doesn't, it'll still be cool because that's the show. So be sure to tune in next week and check that out. That was a terrible tease, if I'm honest. But tune in to check it out. Be sure to check out all the other shows on the channel. Every Tuesday afternoon, we have Cancel This Show. Alan Shepard and Matt Beer go online, talk about the latest in the world of politics in the country that is the United States of America, because that's, I mean, really, if you can scroll through Trump's Twitter for an hour, you can sit through that podcast for an hour and enjoy all the latest in the world. They're kind of equitable. We have our Falcon and Winter Soldier reviews that are going up this week. The finale airs, so be sure to tune in and check it out after last week's episode. All the craziness that happened. No super soldiers were murdered this time, but we certainly had some other crazy shit go down, and the culmination comes this week, so be sure to tune in and watch us talk about it. We have After Dark every Saturday night at 9 p.m. EST. That is our hangout movie news show. We talk about all the latest in the world, so be sure to tune into that. And then every Sunday, we have the Supernova Show hosted by one Colton Roberts. All your geekiest desires are discussed there, so be sure to tune in and talk about it with him on there. That being said, folks, my name is Aaron Knoll. Thank you guys so much for watching SchmoeTalks, and we will see you all next Monday as I scroll to my outro. See you guys.